This is what collapse looks like. Donald Trump is imploding in real time, spiraling, rage posting, and exposing his own panic to the entire world as his presidency starts cracking under pressure. Late last night, while the markets were sliding and legal challenges were stacking up, Trump went online to announce that Gavin Newsom had dropped out of the presidential race. Newsom isn't running. He was never running. The President of the United States is inventing imaginary opponents in imaginary elections while the global order is destabilizing. That is not strategy. That is not dominance. That is panic. And within minutes, it gets worse. He pivots into attacking Barack Obama's former national security officials, John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, Susan Rice, recycling decade-old conspiracies as if he's trapped in a MAGA time capsule. Meanwhile, the Dow is plunging nearly 1,000 points. FedEx is suing the United States after the Supreme Court strikes down his tariff scheme. Allies are reportedly refusing to support his reckless push toward war with Iran. But in Trump's fantasy feed, world peace. He is declaring global peace while Russia intensifies its assault on Ukraine. Gaza remains engulfed in devastation, and U.S. military leadership is warning that America lacks both the resources and allied backing for another disastrous conflict. Instead of governing, he is flooding social media with AI videos of himself punching Canadian hockey players. He is mocking the U.S. women's gold medal team until they cancel their White House visit. He is insisting that war with Iran would be easily won. It's grotesque, it's humiliating, and it's incriminating. Because this isn't strength. It's a cornered leader lashing out as the walls close in. Collapsing markets, global isolation, mounting lawsuits, public unraveling. The meltdown isn't coming. It's happening right now. Now let's talk about the lie. Because this is what Trump always does when he's cornered. He distracts, he gaslights, and he invents an alternate reality where he's the victim and everyone else is the villain. Remember what he has been telling his base for years? That he is in total control, that he alone can fix it, that the economy would boom, that the world would respect us again, that wars would end, that he would bring peace through strength. Let's look at what he really said. He posted that the world has peace because of him. Peace. At the very moment, Russia is escalating attacks on Ukraine. At the very moment, the Middle East is on edge as he threatens Iran with military action. At the very moment, American military leadership is reportedly telling people privately that allies want no part of this reckless escalation. And then comes the big one. Trump posts that stories claiming General Daniel Kane is hesitant about war with Iran are 100% incorrect. He insists that Kane believes it would be easily won. Easily won. Let me show you the contradiction. This is the same Trump who previously claimed that Iran's nuclear capabilities were totally obliterated. Totally obliterated. If that were true, why are we talking about new strikes? Why are we talking about escalation? Why are we suddenly being told something must be destroyed again? You can't obliterate something twice. That's magical thinking. And then Trump says, I am the one that makes decisions. Notice the emphasis. Not we, not in consultation with allies, not in coordination with Congress, just him. That's not leadership. That's authoritarian impulse. Now let's connect this to the receipts piling up around him. The Supreme Court strikes down his use of emergency tariff powers. FedEx immediately sues the United States for refunds. The Dow plunges nearly 1,000 points. The S&P and NASDAQ drop sharply. Markets are reacting in real time to instability coming from inside the White House. And instead of calming markets, instead of reassuring allies, instead of addressing lawsuits, Trump is posting AI videos of himself punching Canadian hockey players. This is not normal behavior. He mocks the U.S. women's gold medal hockey team. They cancel their White House visit. A moment that should have celebrated American excellence turns into a grotesque spectacle of grievance and mockery. That's not media spin. That's documented behavior. And while all this is unfolding, reports surface that allies are distancing themselves from his Iran posture. That America may lack both resources and coalition backing for another military adventure. So what does Trump do? He gaslights. He claims everything written about potential war is fake. He claims victory is guaranteed. He claims strength where there is visible isolation. This is textbook. When reality contradicts the narrative, attack reality. Invent a Newsom presidential campaign. Resurrect Obama-era villains. Declare world peace in the middle of geopolitical chaos. This isn't random. It's defensive. Because when lawsuits are flooding in, when markets are sliding, when allies are pulling back, when military leaders are reportedly raising concerns, the one thing Trump cannot allow his base to see is weakness. So he overcompensates, he posts more, he rants louder, he declares bigger victories. But here's the problem. The receipts don't disappear. Markets don't lie. Court rulings don't lie. Allied governments don't lie about whether they're joining your war coalition. And when the contradictions stack this high, when the gaslighting becomes this obvious, when the panic becomes this public, it stops looking like confidence. It starts looking like collapse. Now let's go deeper, because this is where it gets truly disturbing. I want to walk through what Trump actually posted and said, line by line, because when you slow it down, when you strip away the noise, what you see is not strength. You see instability. Let's start with his post about General Daniel Kane. Trump writes that numerous stories from the fake news media are falsely claiming that General Kane is against going to war with Iran. He says those reports are 100% incorrect. He insists that if a military decision is made, it will be something easily won. Pause right there. Easily won. We are talking about a potential war with Iran, a nation of nearly 90 million people with regional proxy networks, ballistic missile capabilities, and complex terrain. And the commander-in-chief is describing it like a pickup game. That's grotesque. Now let's look at the next part of what he says. He claims that Iran's nuclear development was blown to smithereens by U.S. B-2 bombers in what he calls Midnight Hammer. Blown to smithereens. I want you to think about the contradiction. If it was obliterated, totally destroyed, why is escalation even on the table? Why are we suddenly discussing new strikes? Why are reports circulating that military leadership is concerned about resources and allied support? You can't destroy something completely and then need to destroy it again. This is magical thinking layered on top of bravado. Then Trump writes, I am the one that makes decisions. Not the administration. Not after consultation with Congress. Not with our NATO allies. Just him. That line matters. Because it reveals the governing philosophy, personalization of power, centralization. The idea that war, trade, diplomacy, all of it, flows through a single ego. Now let's shift to the economic side, because this is happening simultaneously. The Supreme Court strikes down his emergency tariff authority. Immediately, FedEx sues the United States, seeking full refunds. Billions in economic uncertainty ripple through the market. The Dow drops nearly 1,000 points in a single session. The S&P and NASDAQ both slide. Markets are reacting to instability. This is not partisan commentary, this is measurable data. And while that's happening, Trump is posting AI-generated videos of himself as a hockey enforcer, punching Canadian players in the face. Think about the optics. American markets are tumbling. Allies are questioning U.S. leadership. Legal challenges are mounting. And the president is circulating fantasy violence videos. You cannot make this up. Now let's look at the international isolation. Reports indicate that allies are reluctant, if not outright refusing, to join a potential escalation against Iran. That matters. Modern warfare is coalition-based. Logistics, basing rights, intelligence sharing. None of that happens in a vacuum. If coalition partners step back, the cost, militarily and diplomatically, increases exponentially. And yet, Trump publicly insists everything would be easily won. That's not analysis, that's chest thumping. Then we have the social media spiral. He mocks the U.S. women's gold medal hockey team. They cancel their White House visit. Instead of a unifying moment celebrating athletic achievement, it turns into grievance politics. Meanwhile, members of the men's team are reportedly laughing along as he demeans the women. That's not just petty, it's corrosive. Now let's talk about the broader contradictions surrounding Iran. Earlier rhetoric suggested protesters in Iran would be supported if they rose up, yet reports indicate tens of thousands were massacred without meaningful intervention. And now we are told escalation would be simple, decisive, easy. Which is it? Are we committed to careful diplomacy, or are we recklessly improvising policy in real time? Because what we are seeing looks like improvisation. And then there's the geopolitical irony. While Trump declares world peace, Russia intensifies attacks on Ukraine. Gaza remains engulfed in devastation. Canada is strengthening trade ties elsewhere. Prime Minister Carney is reportedly traveling to India, Australia, Japan, building trans-Pacific and transatlantic relationships that exclude the United States. Isolation isn't theoretical, it's measurable. Every post Trump makes insisting everything is under control is colliding with visible evidence to the contrary. Markets declining, allies distancing, legal challenges mounting, military hesitation surfacing. And instead of recalibrating, instead of reassuring, instead of demonstrating steady leadership, he escalates rhetorically. He posts more. He attacks more. He declares bigger victories. This is what panic governance looks like. When a leader senses control slipping, the instinct is to project dominance, to speak louder, to promise quicker wins, to rewrite reality in real time. But reality has receipts, court rulings, stock charts, diplomatic travel itineraries, canceled White House visits, public contradictions between obliterated and needs further destruction. You don't need insider leaks to see instability. It's visible in the words themselves. And when the commander-in-chief is insisting war would be easy, markets are stable, allies are loyal, and peace is achieved, all while evidence points in the opposite direction, that's not confidence. That's a narrative straining to hold. And when narratives start cracking under the weight of facts, panic sets in. Now let's zoom out, because this is not an isolated meltdown. This is not one bad post, one bad press cycle, one rough week in the markets. This is a pattern. And patterns tell you where things are heading. Start with the mental spiral. We are watching a president invent imaginary presidential campaigns. He is confusing timelines. He is recycling decade-old enemies as if time has frozen. He is ranting and raving online at odd hours, flooding feeds with grievance and fantasy violence while global tensions are rising. That's not sharp. That's not strategic. That's deterioration. And voters see it. Polling has been tightening. Independent voters, the voters who decide national elections, are watching this chaos and they are recoiling. Suburban moderates are not interested in AI hockey fight videos while their retirement accounts fluctuate wildly. Military families are not reassured by talk of easily won wars. Business leaders are not comforted by tariffs that get struck down by the Supreme Court. This is where the collapse becomes systemic. Let's talk about the business mythology. Trump has spent years branding himself as the ultimate dealmaker, the genius businessman, the closer. But what does the record show? Multiple bankruptcies. Trump Steaks? Gone. Trump Airlines? Gone. Trump University? Sued out of existence. Casinos that collapsed in Atlantic City. The pattern is leverage, hype, overpromise, implode. And now that pattern is playing out on a national scale. Threaten massive tariffs, markets swing, Supreme Court strikes them down, major corporations sue for refunds, allies adjust trade relationships elsewhere, Canada strengthens ties with India, Australia, Japan, building economic architecture that deliberately reduces reliance on the United States. Isolation is not just diplomatic, it's economic. Then there's the foreign policy fantasy. Steve Witkoff publicly praising Vladimir Putin as someone who keeps his word. Keeps his word. We are talking about a leader who invaded Ukraine, annexed territory, suppressed dissent, and weaponized energy supplies across Europe. And this administration's envoy is describing him as straightforward. That's not just naive, it's dangerous. At the same time, J.D. Vance is out there promising a manufacturing renaissance. Factories popping up everywhere. Where? Show them. Show the data. Show the job numbers tied directly to new operational plants, not press releases or groundbreaking ceremonies. Because rhetoric without receipts is just propaganda. Now let's talk about the optics of weakness. When the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is reportedly expressing concern about resources and allied support, that signals friction at the highest levels. Modern military strategy depends on coalition cohesion. When that cohesion frays, deterrence weakens. And adversaries notice. Russia notices. Iran notices. China notices. When domestic political chaos collides with international uncertainty, it creates opportunity for competitors. This is why the meltdown matters. It's not just embarrassing, it's destabilizing. Then there's the moral corrosion. Mocking a women's championship team, encouraging public humiliation as sport, posting AI fantasy violence, elevating grievance over governance. Leadership sets tone. When the tone becomes vindictive, erratic, and self-absorbed, institutions begin to bend around that instability. Staff turnover increases. Loyalists replace professionals. Expertise erodes. Decision-making narrows to an echo chamber. That's how democracies weaken, not in one dramatic explosion, but in incremental normalization of chaos. And here's the key. This moment connects everything. Economic instability, legal exposure, foreign policy recklessness, mental volatility, international isolation. It's not random, it's converging. When markets slide, when lawsuits multiply, when allies hedge, when rhetoric escalates, and the response from the top is denial plus bravado, that is not resilience. That's a system under stress. And history shows us something important. When leaders sense vulnerability, they often double down. They escalate rhetoric. They seek external conflict to unify a fractured base. They manufacture distractions to shift headlines. Sound familiar? This is why the late-night meltdown matters. It's a window into a presidency that is no longer projecting control. It is projecting anxiety. And anxiety at that level, inside the Oval Office, is not just political theater. It has consequences. Here's the bottom line. What we are witnessing is the difference between reality and propaganda, between governance and grievance, between stability and spectacle. A president inventing imaginary opponents, declaring world peace as global tensions escalate, promising wars would be easily won, posting AI fantasy violence while markets tumble and allies distance themselves. That's not strength. That's a warning sign. Democracies don't collapse overnight. They erode when chaos is normalized, when panic is rebranded as power, when obvious contradictions are shrugged off as strategy, when the loudest voice in the room drowns out the facts. But facts still exist. Court rulings exist. Market data exists. Diplomatic isolation exists. Canceled White House visits exist. And voters are watching. This moment isn't just about one late-night meltdown. It's about whether we allow instability, magical thinking, and grievance politics to define American leadership. We cannot let that happen. If you value truth over lies, accountability over chaos, and democracy over ego-driven rule, make sure you're part of this conversation. Hit subscribe. Let's push this channel past the next milestone and keep independent media strong. Because the truth matters now more than ever.